You diligently sit seeking quietude, yet often find your mind a tumultuous battlefield, swirling with thoughts you desperately wish to silence. This incessant internal chatter, this mental storm, frequently leaves you more drained than before you began. You seek peace, but encounter relentless resistance from within. Paramahansa Yogananda, and centuries before him, the Stoic philosophers, understood this paradox not as a failure, but as an inevitable phase. They taught that true peace isn't found in the absence of thought, but in the unwavering mastery over its influence, a profound truth that modern neuroscience is now meticulously mapping, proving the ancient wisdom with stunning clarity. But what if the very chaos you resist is the raw material for your greatest liberation? A truth the ancient yogis knew and science is finally mapping, and your brain holds the secret to unlocking this ancient power. For too long, you've battled your mind as if it were a separate entity, an uncontrollable force dictating your moods, your decisions, and your very sense of self. This relentless internal monologue, the churning wheel of rumination and anxiety, is not a personal failing. It is the default operating system of an unmastered consciousness, precisely what Yogananda termed the ego's dominion. Modern neuroscience now offers a chilling validation of this ancient yogic insight, identifying the default mode network, DMN, in the brain. This network becomes hyperactive when your mind is unfocused, leading to endless self-referential thoughts, replaying past regrets, and projecting future anxieties. It's the neural signature of a mind trapped in its own karmic loops, perpetuating the very suffering it seeks to escape. Yogananda described the ego as the chief enemy, a false sense of self constantly projecting its desires and fears onto the canvas of reality. This ego, neuroscientifically, corresponds to the self-referential processing within the DMN, weaving a yasai narrative of identity that is constantly under threat, perpetually seeking control, yet always falling short. This continuous activation of the DMN, validated by countless fMRI studies, correlates with increased stress, anxiety, and even depression. It's a biological prison built by unchecked mental habits, a fortress of mental noise that prevents genuine peace and spiritual connection. You feel this burden as chronic fatigue, as an inability to truly relax, as the gnawing sense that something is wrong, even when all external circumstances appear stable. This isn't just psychological distress. It's the soul's primal alarm, echoing the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna warns Arjuna about the unconquered mind being an enemy. The problem, then, isn't that you have thoughts, but that your thoughts have you. You are not the silent observer, the Atman that Yogananda spoke of. You are the prisoner identifying with the jailer, your own undisciplined mind. The Stoics, long before Yogananda, recognized this self-imposed servitude. Seneca implored us to realize that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, a perfect description of a DMN-driven existence. Your pain isn't just in what happens to you, but in how your untamed mind reacts to it, weaving tales of catastrophe and inadequacy. This is the dor occulta abordada, the silent anguish of being trapped by one's own thoughts, feeling overwhelmed by chronic anxiety, and the fruitless search for inner peace through external means. But what if the very structures of your brain are designed to break free from this prison, and the key lies not in fighting the mind, but in a profound shift of perspective? Once you recognize the mind's relentless dominion, the spiritual journey transforms from a gentle quest for peace into an intense internal war for sovereignty. This isn't a battle against external forces, but a grueling campaign against the very structures of your own consciousness. The initial attempts at meditation, far from bringing calm, often amplify the internal noise. As you try to still the mind, it can feel like stirring a muddy pond. All the sediment of unexamined thoughts, dormant anxieties, and buried emotions rises to the surface. This is the first skirmish in the war against the inimigo comum, the deeply entrenched ego. Yogananda taught that the path to spiritual awakening demands relentless self-discipline and unwavering will. It is not for the faint of heart. This discipline aligns perfectly with the Stoic ideal of prososh, or attention, where you cultivate a continuous awareness of your thoughts and impulses. Early meditators often report frustration, a sense of failure, even increased agitation. Neuroscientifically, this is the brain's resistance to change. Your neural pathways, carved by years of habit, prefer the well-worn grooves of rumination. The brain's reward system, accustomed to external stimuli and quick dopamine hits, rebels against the perceived monotony of inner stillness. You're not just fighting thoughts, you're fighting deep-seated neural programming that reinforces the ego's narrative. The spiraling tension continues. You might find moments of fleeting calm, only for the mind to snatch them away, proving its power. This is where many seekers falter, believing they are incapable of achieving inner peace. But this struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awakening. It's the ego's last stand, a desperate attempt to maintain control. The Stoics would frame this as the battle against passions, the irrational and destructive emotions that arise from false judgments. They believed true freedom comes from conquering these internal forces. Yogananda emphasized that the soul, the Atman, is inherently free and undisturbed. The practice, then, is to peel away the layers of mental conditioning, to disidentify from the ego mind, and align with the unchanging witness consciousness. This process, as challenging as it is, forces a choice. Retreat into the familiar discomfort of mental slavery or press forward, armed with an unshakable will, towards an inner freedom that transcends all external circumstances. But what if the very act of confronting this inner chaos, this mental war, is precisely what unlocks your brain's dormant capacity for profound and lasting serenity? The true transformation begins when you stop fighting the mind and start mastering it, not by suppressing thoughts, but by changing your relationship with them. This is the alchemy of attention, where the lead of mental chaos transmutes into the gold of clear consciousness, a process Yogananda and the Stoics championed, and which neuroscience now illuminates. The inimigo comum, the chaotic mind, becomes the very instrument of its own liberation. Central to this mastery is a disciplined, consistent practice that integrates yogic insight with Stoic resolve. Yogananda taught specific techniques to focus the life force, prana, and attention, guiding it inward. This includes precise breath control, pranayama, and focused concentration on inner spiritual centers. From a neuroscientific perspective, these practices actively engage and strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center. This region is crucial for attention regulation, impulse control, and working memory, effectively putting the sovereign self at the helm of your neural ship. Simultaneously, the practice of disidentification, central to both yogic philosophy and Stoicism, begins to rewire the brain. When Yogananda speaks of realizing you are not the body or the mind, he's echoing the Stoic principle of focusing only on what is within your control, your judgments, your impulses, and your desires. Through meditation, you systematically train your awareness to observe thoughts without judgment or attachment. Neuroimaging studies show that consistent meditation leads to a thickening of the prefrontal cortex and a reduction in the size and activity of the amygdala, the brain's fear center. This isn't merely a psychological shift, it's structural neuroplasticity in action. The sovereign self-command emerges from this fusion. It is a mental decree, reinforced by breath and focused attention, that asserts your soul's inherent authority over the mental landscape. It's the yogi's mantra of Om, the Stoics' rational assent to what is, applied to the internal storm. Instead of being swept away by a thought, you observe it, acknowledge its transient nature, and consciously choose not to engage. This practice, repeated with unwavering discipline, gradually weakens the hyperconnectivity of the default mode network and strengthens neural pathways associated with focused attention and meta-awareness. The chaotic noise doesn't disappear entirely, but its power over you dissolves. You become the silent witness, the unshakable Atman. The emotional peak of this process is not an explosion, but an expansion, a quiet, profound realization that the peace you sought externally has always resided within, waiting for your consciousness to claim its rightful throne. Your brain, once a prison, becomes a sanctuary, sculpted by your conscious will, leading to a state where peace is no longer a fleeting guest, but an inherent state of being, regardless of external storms. This journey from mental servitude to inner sovereignty is not a fleeting experience, but a fundamental recalibration of your entire being, a quiet revolution scientifically validated. When the brain begins to function from a place of conscious mastery, guided by the wisdom of Yogananda and the fortitude of the Stoics, your daily life transforms profoundly. The dor occulta abordata of chronic anxiety and mental overwhelm gives way to a serene clarity that redefines your existence. What does this new normal feel like? It is an equanimity that is not passive indifference, but an active, intelligent stillness, where once external stimuli triggered automatic reactions, anger, fear, frustration, now there is a pause, a spaciousness. In that gap, born from a strengthened prefrontal cortex and a quieter amygdala, you discover the freedom to choose your response. As Marcus Aurelius, a beacon of Stoic wisdom, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't just a philosophical ideal, it's a neurobiological reality achieved through consistent, meditative practice. Vithayar, constant mental noise that once drowned out your intuition now subsides, allowing for a deeper connection to your higher self, your Atman. Decisions are made not from frantic impulse, but from a place of inner knowing, aligning with your Dharma, your soul's purpose, as taught in the Bhagavad Gita. This doesn't mean life becomes devoid of challenges. Rather, your capacity to meet them expands exponentially. You observe the drama of existence without being consumed by it, becoming the testimunha, serena, Yogananda described. Neuroscience confirms this enduring shift. Meditators exhibit increased gray matter in areas associated with attention, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. Their brains literally adapt, becoming more efficient, resilient, and peaceful. The stress response system, HPA axis, is less reactive, leading to lower levels of cortisol and a greater sense of well-being. The initial frustration and inimigo commum of an unruly mind are now remembered not as torment, but as the fiery crucible that forged an unshakable inner citadel. You no longer seek peace, you emanate it, a living testament to the truth that the greatest battles are won not in the external world, but within the sacred landscape of your own consciousness. You've experienced the profound shift, the quiet revolution within your own mind. You've witnessed neuroscience validate the ancient wisdom of Yogananda and the Stoics, revealing the intricate dance between your spiritual practice and your brain's capacity for transformation. The Gatillo emotional primario of spiritual empowerment has ignited a deeper curiosity. You now understand that controlling your thoughts isn't a struggle, but a deliberate act of sovereign will. But what if this newly acquired peace, this mastery over your internal landscape, is not an end in itself, but merely the first step on a far grander journey? What if the quietude you've cultivated, the mental clarity you now possess, is actually the necessary preparation for receiving communications from realms beyond the purely physical? Yogananda spoke of higher states of consciousness, of realms astral and causal, accessible only when the mind is fully stilled, when the ego's noise is finally silenced. Neuroscience might map the brain's changes, but it can only describe the instrument, not the symphony it can play when tuned to the divine. The ability to command your mind is not just for your personal peace, it is a profound responsibility. It opens you to a greater purpose, a universal dharma that extends beyond your individual self. With an unshakable inner core, fortified by stoic resilience and yogic discipline, you become a beacon in a chaotic world, capable of serving a truth far greater than personal comfort. Your meditation is not merely a self-help tool, it is a spiritual technology, a divine science, preparing you for an inevitable awakening that transcends the boundaries of ordinary perception. What sacred knowledge, what profound mission awaits the consciousness that has finally conquered its own internal dominion? And what role will your newly awakened mind play in the grand cosmic design? You have heard the truth whispered by the ancient yogis and echoed by the Stoic sages, now confirmed by the cutting edge of science. Your mind is not your master. It is your sacred instrument, awaiting your conscious command. The journey to inner sovereignty, is not for the complacent, but for those ready to reclaim their divine birthright of peace and clarity. This path demands devotion, discipline, and a willingness to confront the inimigo comum within. If you are ready to stop being a prisoner of your own thoughts and step into the unshakable power of your sovereign self, then the next step is clear. Begin the daily practice of mindful observation, integrating breath and focused attention. Commit to 5 minutes of stillness each morning. Feel the subtle shift, the quiet revolution. Are you ready to engage in this profound work? To honor the wisdom of Yogananda, the fortitude of the Stoics, and the incredible potential of your own awakened brain?